Well, it was an emotional day in the Texas House of Representatives as lawmakers passed a package of bills related to the recovery and disaster preparedness in the wake of those deadly July 4th floods.
And that devastating flooding killed at least 138 people, the majority of them in Kerr County along the Guadalupe River. 27 campers and counselors at Camp Mystic died as that flash flood swept through the camp and surrounding areas. Their families are now pushing state lawmakers to make significant safety changes for Texas youth camps. KVUE's Daniel Perot is live at the state capitol. And Daniel, the first flood-related bill is now on its way to Governor Greg Abbott's desk.
That's right, Mark. And Quita, the House gave final approval to Senate Bill 5. That is the massive flood funding relief package. It includes a total of $364 million. Included in that is funding for new early warning systems and also new weather monitoring equipment. The House passed 6 flood-related bills today as families of the Camp Mystic victims watched from the gallery. Lawmakers wore pink heart pins and read the little girls' names to honor them. Among the 6 bills state lawmakers passed today was House Bill 3 by State Representative Ken King, a Republican from Canadian. It passed the House but died in the Senate during the regular session. The bill sprung from last year's Panhandle wildfires. It would create a new government council to establish emergency response plans and give counties grants for emergency communication equipment. Senate Bill 2 would require additional training for justices of the peace and licenses for emergency management coordinators. There are currently no minimum qualifications to be an emergency management coordinator in the state of Texas. The bill also establishes clear lines of succession in the event that the emergency management coordinator is not available, something that was an issue in the early hours of the Kerr County flooding response. It would also develop a volunteer registration system and require background checks for volunteers. While many people show up just wanting to help, state leaders say it can be overwhelming and hard to keep track of everyone, so they need a centralized system.
Nobody can tell when the next fire, flood, hurricane, school shooting, Mr. McLaughlin, is going to take place. But this state, we've said it all morning long, the locals can do better, we can do better. Being prepared and being ready to respond to a disaster is what we owe the citizens of Texas.
Representatives passed House Bill 1, which would mandate youth camps submit disaster emergency preparedness plans for 12 kinds of disasters, including fires, floods, and illness. It would also ban camp leaders from putting cabins in a floodplain, create civil penalties, including fines, and the revoking of a camp's license for youth camps that do not comply. For State Representative Drew Darby, who authored the bill, the tragedy was personal because his granddaughters were at Mystic shortly before the flooding.
If July 4 taught me anything, it taught us that for too long we collectively have become too complacent. Camps became complacent. The local governments became complacent. We all became too damn complacent. I will not make that mistake again.
The House also passed House Bill 20, which cracks down on disaster scams. It would create new civil and criminal penalties for people who are found guilty of operating a fraudulent disaster relief charity. It also creates a voluntary accreditation program for disaster relief groups and organizations through the Attorney General's office. The lower chamber also advanced House Bill 22, which allows the state comptroller's office to send money directly to local governments to buy communications equipment. With the exception of Senate Bill 5, which goes to the governor's desk, the other 5 bills all go to the Senate for consideration. At the Texas Capitol, Daniel Perot, KVUE News.